The first kind is a transformation fairy. And what they told me that they do, they help shift seasons, they help uh, sh- uh, give birth to things. You know, any transformational stage that Earth has, they are a part of it. Even our own transformations as we grow older, or as we, give birth, or even smaller things like taking another job, and the shifting from one thing to another. That's one type of fairy, and they tackle that. The second one is a creation fairy, as I said, so the one that actually gives birth to things and works strongly with the core of Earth. And they work very strongly also with the crystalline center of Earth, and that community there, I'll say. And those are the two rarest type of fairies, these two ones. There are not as many, I'll say, as the others. That's what they told me. So those are the rarest types of fairies. So anything you can think about creation and transformation, they tackle all of that. So they actually have roles into, it's really, really, really specific. The things that they actually do, it's fascinating for me. Like they shift one season to another, so they change the quality of the air, and they work with Earth with such um, mastery, because they are it. So they are, maybe we should say that first. They're saying they are an embodiment of the forces of Earth that move things, that give life to things, that create things, that are physical at all. So they're saying we call them fairies, and because of these names, sometimes we think about Tinkerbell, and we think about all sorts of other types of fairies that don't really make us feel as if they are a part of our embodiments, right, of this realm that we're living in. But they are all around, and a lot of people have seen them. They will talk about a little bit of the types. I think as we go through, they're going to say this is a type that you get to see, in Ireland, for example, and things like that. But anyways, they're saying that some people call them fae, some people call them pixie, some people call them, there are different names, but they are like all of the powers of Earth put into motion, if that makes sense. So it makes a lot of sense. We are actually channeling them now as spring begins and things like that. Anyways, the next type of fairies is seasonal. So all of the 4 seasons, there is one for each, and they work in conjunction, for example, with a transformation fairy to bring spring. So spring fairies and transformation, they work together in their own way to renew the environment to receive spring, if that makes sense. And then with all of the others. So as time goes, they are these elements. And again, they have these things in them. They have, let's say, these powers. I think that's the best way I can convey this, to manipulate the elements of summer, for example, or to manipulate the elements of winter and everything related to that. Three other kinds that fall into the same category is day, night, and dawn. They were saying that they also work with these parts of our day. So these are very, very busy fairies because we have these stages every single day. So we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of day, night, and dawn fairies. So the next type of fairy is growth fairies. So they work a lot with creation fairies, is what they said. They help things grow. Every single thing, again, they are very connected to nature. So everything that grows on Earth, us, like our growth, a fetus in the womb, every single thing, they work with all of it. There is also a moon and a sun fairies, and those are kind of high priests and priestesses of, they offer more of a support system for the other fairies, and they work a lot with their own embodiments. As they get super busy and they do things for the whole planet in every aspect of Earth, these two types of fairies, they work strongly with each other as a community in the fairy system. So with their own bodies, with their own processes, right? They are the ones that train, we'll say, the other children until they reach the mature age and everything like that. So they work. Moon and sun fairies, they are closely into their community, so we are not really likely to actually see them in a forest or something like that. Only if we are entering into their own community, which can also happen, they say. If we get to open this portal to go to their own community, you can see these fairies there, but that's not a very common one that you're going to see in the forest or wherever it is that you are. Another type is a flower fairy, and these are also what is the word, shapeshifters, they're saying. That's a very, very common one for us to see. They're saying that they've been seen thousands and thousands of times because they shapeshift into something else. Sometimes they can shapeshift into a flower itself. um, these are the kind of fairies that really like to be in other people's gardens, depending on where you live, of course. So they like to play with your own flowers and help you plant the flowers and things like that. But they can become, for example, like a mantis being, and they can just shape shift into other stuff. Um, but in any case, they are super cute, and they are the ones that they say that we see the most. They are very tiny too, by the way, for us in our own spectrum of size, not to offend any of you. Um, Most of them, if not all of them, have wings. They say someone is wondering that, and I'm going to answer. Most of them have wings, if not all of them. They're saying that they are not born with wings, they grow wings as they mature. So that's why I'm seeing it. But all of them in their own um, adulthood, they have wings, but they can close and release them in a way. They don't need to be always out. So they can just walk and do whatever it is they want to do without using their wings. So we have light and shadow fairies as well. And these are the kinds of fairies that kind of mix in between every single thing. They are like part of many different aspects of life. So not only the physical, because I think all of those so far, at least most of it, they work in a physical way. These two, like light and shadow, they work with emotional bodies, they work with mental bodies. So if you are doing any kind of work regarding, let's say, a part of you that you would consider to be a shadow, um, or just like the void, for example, they are great ones to invoke in a way to help you navigate, because they master all of it and they are it. They are an embodiment of each of one of those things that we are saying, by the way. So this light fairy is an embodiment of light. So literally, they are made of light. They look like all of every single part of them shines. It looks like a so it's so hard to even, but you know what I get, like a tiny little thingy, very pretty, and they are light. So don't call me firefly. One of them said. I don't mean that, but they just glow. And the shadow ones, they become shadow as well, so they can uh, fuse into shadows, and they can um, become, as they can change their molecules like that, and they can change dimensions using both things at once, allow them to come into your own senses, and inhabitate your own shadow. So if you're wanting to purge a part of you that you don't really appreciate, for example, they can help you, they can get inside, infuse themselves into whatever it is and help you get it out, for example, or integrate it as well, whatever it is. Very, very fascinating. There are protection fairies as well. And by that, they say they mean they hold space for every other thing to happen. So they oversee everything. They say they work even more into realms like Earth, that there is still that belief that we need protection, for example, of course. So this realm, I mean, that we inhabit as humans, the human realm, I should say, not Earth, because all of it is happening on Earth. But still, they are like supporters, like protection and support for the other fairies. Most importantly, the moon and the sun fairies. Then we have the elements, the earth, water, air, and fire. They're saying that these are very common ones as well, and ones that we can absolutely connect with and see with our eyes as well. Um, that whenever it is that we are working with an element, they are the element. So the flame in this candle here that is in front of me, it's a conjunction of fairies, it is. So we get to see this playing more in our reality, with all of the elements. And they work with every single thing that entices that element. So earth, everything that is earth, they work with it. So for example, we could say that our bodies are earth, right? Because it is a material and more rounded substance. So they work with everything that we want to um, move in our bodies, every single thing, guys, our own physiology and things like that. So all of it, also trees and every single thing that is earth, and also the core of earth as well. So they work really, really closely to Gaia. And whenever I see Gaia, she always has many fairies all around her, like standing with her and in her hair and everywhere. It's like she's carrying them because they work so closely and they love Gaia so much. The next kind of fairies is healers. So healer fairies, they work with every aspect of everyone, everywhere, all the time, because they work with fairies, they work with elvens, they work with dragons, they work with humans, they work with galactic beings in every place. So these are very busy fairies as well. They love to be invoked, they love to be summoned, and they love to work with us because they have a different, how can I explain this? The way they can move, the way that they can shift from one stage to another, they aren't only one thing. It's hard to define them because they are not here or there. They are everything and nothing. So the way that their molecules work in their bodies is so specific to one thing and everything at the same time. I'm not making any sense. So they can shift into something. For example, if you have a back pain, they can become it without feeling any weight on them because it is them. It is their role, and they've stepped into it, and they love themselves for it, and they love their role. They can step into it, they can become the pain and shift it to another stage because that's what they do. They create portals, they are portals. So they are always moving from one stage to another. That's one of the things that all of them can vouch to, is the wisdom fairy is saying, is that they love change, they embrace change, they are change. So this is like their religion, their everything. It is transformation, it is change. So that's why the transformation fairies are even like a high priest as well, or high priestess in their community, because it's so important for them. It is they understand actually that it is in their everyday, in every second, and they don't fear anything about it. They love it, they celebrate it, they have celebrations, to welcome transformation and change. They love it so much. The next kind is a love fairy, and they're saying that in our realm, oh my god, I keep seeing them flying everywhere. um, in our realm, they work a lot with everything related to love, of course, and most importantly, relationships, of course. They're saying that we really like expressing love like that. So they work with our hearts and the heart to heart communication. And again, they can merge into two hearts and make one heart become one, for example. That's a beautiful meditation to do with you. She's like, um, so yeah, they are very, very loving, of course, very compassionate, very open-hearted, and they can help us with all of this. So like opening our hearts, loving ourselves, everything regarding love, basically everything on earth as well, right? Because we are love. They can help us tackle whatever it is that we want related to that thing. So all of them, in one way or another, as they are an agent of change. That's what they're saying. They bring things into one state to another. So they bring things from this ethereal or mental or emotional stage into physical. So it's a great to work with them whenever it is that you want to manifest anything at all. So this is super cool, guys. Super cool. You guys, super cool. Um, so whenever, whatever it is that you want to work with, they are change agents. So they bring it through one stage or another. So if you're working with self-love, for example, they can help you gather that one thing that, let's say, needs to change, right? That you can't accept in yourself, and they can transform it into love. So that's a very interesting, very loving um, way to transmute. And all of them are alchemists, of course, because they are, they change one thing from one stage to another. So what do we call that on earth? We call that an alchemist. So all of them are very, very powerful alchemists. The other type of fairy is a crystalline fairy. So they are born from crystals. They are one of the most ancient beings to inhabit earth at all. And so they are very wise, and they are very, very, very centered and sharp. They are great in communicating. So that's one thing that we can invoke them for. They are so clear with their communication, so clear with what they feel and how they want to express themselves. And they work with crystals, they are crystals. So they love, for example, if you want to offer them something, all of them love crystals, but these kind are so going to come to you. So if you tell this crystal, like, um, show me the crystalline fairy, for example, it's they're gonna come through. So they work with all of that thing, and also they work with the crystalline part of your own DNA. They're saying so to activate that part of you, to receive activations with more ease. Again, they love ease and flow. So to invoke them whenever it is that we are receiving an activation, and every activation that we receive, they're saying it's tackling your crystalline DNA. So we are that part of you already. So all of us, of course, all of us have all of these aspects, and they all play different roles for us, but we all have this strong essence of the crystalline fae because they are in our DNA. They've created our DNA with the creation fairies and the transformation fairies, if that makes sense. Then we have star fae or star fairies, which are mixes, I'll say, of the other types of fairies with galactic DNA. So with like a love fairy with a Leon feline. So they have aspects of both. So they are a different race within the race, I'll say, because they bring more of that galactic cosmic essence into their own beings. And they say they do that in many different ways, but one of them is through star fairies. Yes, of course you are. Because they work with the crystalline fairies to implant, we'll say, the essence of a Pleiadian, a Syrian, into a crystal, and then the crystal is used to infuse, let's say, the mom or the dad, or whatever might be the case. They also work with pods. How do I say that, guys? It's like they don't need to yes, like a cocoon, but they don't need to actually have a gestation. They don't often do that. It's very, very rare in their own thing. Like Superman. Yeah. So they can mix and match their own DNA and things like that with other beings. So they are both, so they have traces of both, they have interest of both, and they are most of anything. They are, besides all of the other things that they can choose to do as well. For example, if they are a nurse fairy, they can choose to play that role, but they are more like emissaries, for example, that contact in between realms and in between dimensions of our own embodiments in this galaxy. So they're like spokesperson for the fairies and the galactic beings that work with us. And the last one that I have is a wisdom fairy or an ancient fairy, which are, uh, as you probably could say, very ancient fairies. They are the advisors, the ones that the elder ones in their communities that kind of keep everything in flow. So they work directly with flow. So this is another type of fairy that we might not encounter them, but when you channel them, that's mostly this kind of fairy that is going to come to you. So we have this ancient elder fairy that is kind of speaking for all of them, and that's kind of the aspect that's been channeled, that's been giving all of this information, and the other ones they kind of come and go, if that makes sense.